barber's the other day. He spent more time on my ears than he did my head. I took my shirt off. I said, mow my back while you're at it, buddy.
Ron, it's great to speak with you because the last time I spoke with you was probably, I think it was 2 years ago when we talked about your annual New Year's Eve special that you always have, and what a way to make people laugh getting out of one year and going into another. I probably would not, and you probably would not have thought that, you know, after that conversation, we would be having this one where, A, we couldn't meet, and B, the world is completely different with COVID-19 and all the things that have been happening from 2020 to 2021. My friend, how have you been doing throughout this new world that's been happening in the last 13 months?
Well, I've been adapting, and I adapted 25 years ago when I returned from Los Angeles. I was an actor for 17 years, and I came back, how many years ago? No, 93, so more than that. And I wrote a one-man show called Up and Down in Shaky Town, one man's journey through the California dream that moved me into solo performance that eventually evolved into a stand-up career. And I've been stringing my trap line from coast to coast for the last 20 years, playing theaters, which came after 5 years playing the clubs and working for a feudal wage. So it seems to me that adaptation has been part of my life out of necessity. And boy, I'm telling you though, brother, live performance took a serious torpedo to the bow. And with $60 billion lost worldwide, I just happen to be one of those foot soldiers who's made a promise to himself that if it took me this long to become so proficient at this calling that I'm proud to call my livelihood, I'll be damned if a plague is going to scuttle my ship. And so I had work to do last summer. I finished the second draft of a book that will be coming out in September for Random House called All Over the Map, Ramblings and Ruminations from the Canadian Road. And I had requests to do a couple of shows, way back in May of last year. I was spooked in the beginning. I didn't know what the heck was going on. Boy, I bought enough tomato seeds to get me through the next pandemic. And it was weird looking in the computer and performing for an hour. It's like I was in a space capsule orbiting the Nebulon galaxy, sending dispatches back to fellow Earthlings. Because in space, nobody can hear the laughs. But I had faith in the content, and I had faith in the audience. And so I began to visualize them from that world it was, where you say your line and you leave some space and you hear the laughs. But, stand-up comedy is much different than playing music so people can kick back and just chill and listen. Stand-up works in tandem with the audience. It's a symbiotic relationship where the laughs build the art form. Otherwise, you're just a lunatic talking to themselves, which I felt like I was a few times talking to the four walls here over the last year. But I persevered, and I certainly hope that my peers have as well. And it's kind of been a silver lining in the COVID cloud for me. I'm 63, and I sure as heck am not even close to being ready to hang it up my spurs. I love touring the country, but what this silver lining has done, it's marshaled resourcefulness in me. Not that I didn't have it before, but it's demanded that I address the situation as it exists and try to make the best of it. And I also had, like everybody else, I had a mortgage to pay, bills to meet. I mean, every now and then you'd get a comment, it's coming from your living room, why isn't it free? Because as far as I know, the banks aren't accepting a morale booster as collateral. So you do what you have to do in order to survive. And it's been a heck of a time, but I did take solace in my parents' greatest generation, as they've been called. I mean, they were raised during the dark days of the Great Depression, when the light at the end of that tunnel was the carnage of World War II. Happy days are here again. All we've been asked to do was to keep our distance, wear a mask, go without a haircut, and watch Netflix.
So this is the thing, because you've seen so much as a Canadian and watching Canada change as it has, what are your thoughts for what you have seen, not just out your window, but on the news, on social media, in the newspapers, and talking about Black Lives Matter, seeing what was going on in the U.S. during the election, the terms Karen and Kevin, now people know exactly what that is. It's not a term that is a nice thing that you have to say to somebody. People passing away, wearing a mask, not wearing a mask. Am I going to have am I going to take the needle? Am I not going to take the needle? I mean, what are your thoughts on seeing all of this happening in 13 months?
That's a fantastic question, and it's worthy of it's worthy of a thesis. It's worthy of a book. We've ingested so much information. I don't know about you, but some days I don't know what the hell is going on. And you've been rattled to the quick. When you say, when you start talking about America and the tectonic and seismic shift that's occurred in that country and all that the pandemic has wrought, absolutely, it's a high watermark in social conflict. From Black Lives Matter to the assault on the Capitol to the amoral corruption of the GOP. If I can answer some of that as best I can, I mean, these seeds were sown for a long time. Donald Trump didn't create the chaos created him. Because for the last 30 years, the American middle class have watched their jobs disappear, or working class, into a gossamer thin ether to third world non-union assembly line grunts who labor 12 hours a day sewing tube socks and sweatshops for the kind of coin an Iron Age chicken plucker wouldn't suffer. Meanwhile, the 1% ruling Wall Street have been busy masticating the hopes and dreams of the disappearing middle class in an unchecked, unpunished, greedy, free-for-all neoliberal circle jerk where the top gets the meat and the bottom gets the bone. And then along comes this orange mutant who is the personification of magical thinking that's had America by the cojones for the last 20 years. I mean, don't forget, it was Karl Rove who said, we're not dealing with reality anymore. And then he was one of the architects of the Silver Spoon Simpletons' assault on Iraq on trumped-up charges of weapons of mass destruction. That was the first big lie. The weapons of mass destruction, they didn't exist. They were Cheney, Rumsfeld, and Bush. Yeah, sure, there was respite under Obama, and he was certainly an engineer of hope, and he certainly did his best to move America to the right side of history. But when you've got now 74 million people believing the election was actually stolen, and there's 395 million weapons in the hands of 375 million people, even though Joseph R. Biden personifies the angels of our higher nature, to quote Abraham Lincoln, and he's doing his best to pull his country back from the abyss with that $1.9 trillion infusion of capital. It's going to take a hell of a lot more work to make America sane again.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was just going to say that I agree, but please go on.
Canada's greatest sin, of course, is the egregious travesty with our elder care. I mean, at one point, 81% of the deaths came from those homes, Rudy. And I sure hope that when we get to the other side of the dark waters of this Rubicon we're crossing, that those capitalist profiteers are held to account. I said that if Jesus came back, the first place he'd show up would be the boardroom of Chartwell, and he wouldn't be wearing sandals. He'd be wearing Harley Davidson steel-toed shit kickers to boot their gelatinous asses all the way up to the courts. There's going to be a crowded place in hell when these dudes meet their maker.
Amen.
But at the same time, with these very serious issues, you have to balance it with lightness as well. Nobody wants a sermon, bro. You can go somewhere else for that. But these are issues that I genuinely care about, and I've tried to address as best I can. You know, I mean, come on, man. I mean, you know, QAnon, it's it's made for wingnuts. And these kinds of fantastical, bizarre notions have permeated all levels of society south of the border and here. I mean, it's America, Britain, and Canada who are more susceptible to it. I always think that conspiracy theories never caught on in Canada because we always have Quebec to blame. At least the West does. I mean, Jesus, Jason Kennedy's getting ready to blame everything from the drop in barometric pressure during Chinooks to the onset of early Alzheimer's on Ottawa. There's, you know, and Doug Ford's rollout of the vaccine was so confusing. I couldn't figure if it was that or the Da Vinci Code. I mean, he had a better understanding of the economics of supply and demand when he was selling hash from the back of his father's Cadillac. The factor from Etobicoke, you know, and then of course you've got the, you know, doe-eyed silver spoon Dauphin with more patronizing notions from his podium, telling Canadians to hang in there. I mean, finally the vaccines are showing up, but quite frankly, up until 2 weeks ago, I figured we'd be waiting for the application from Rexall. While, you know, PEI had already had herd immunity. For Jesus, Americans were getting their vaccines at a Wendy's drive-through while we were still waiting for the cotton swabs to show up from Mauritania.
It's so funny. It's crazy, but I'm laughing about this because it's true. That's the funniest part.
Jesus, Justin probably thought Moderna was a Scandinavian furniture store. I mean, it's if you don't laugh at it, you'll go crazy.
Oh my God!
Well, you'll go crazy.
And that's the whole. Sorry, I'm going to jump in because that's the whole point. Because if we can't laugh about this, we're in serious trouble. And that's, of course, where you come in with your humor. I've got to ask you a question before we get to this great special that you're doing. And it's something you mentioned earlier in the interview. When you're by yourself, basically, and you're telling these great jokes, but you're not hearing anything back. How do you, A, keep that energy up, and B, how do you know that you've hit your mark? Because you know as well as I do that when you really hit something funny, you get the applause and people laughing their heads off, and you see them, they're falling over. But when you don't get it, how do you keep that energy going? Because sometimes you even go off the script and you'll do something off the top of your head, which is even funnier. How do you know to do that when you don't have an audience?
You got to keep the faith. It's simple. I wish I had a complex answer for you, but you just have to keep the faith. I've been doing this for 25 years. And as I said at the beginning of our chat, I'm not going to let COVID scuttle something that to me personifies, allows me to channel the life force. And I have to believe in the audience. I never underestimated an audience. I was on occasion the victim of condescension from urban comedians that somehow I had to temper my show when I played places in the big wide open. Whether I played the small theater in Port Hope of 350 or sold out the Windspear Center in Edmonton with 2,000 or played the McPherson with 1,100 in Victoria. I never underestimated their intelligence. And I know that they're going to get it. And I trust the funny. I trust the content. And I have no choice but to believe it's landing where it's meant to. And if it doesn't, at least I can't hear them echo me.
that is true. Okay, let's get to the special. What's the special called, and how is this representing and what's going on in the world today?
Well, it's called Spring Loaded. And I may very well be in the company of friends once the summer comes and I'm back in Nova Scotia with old soldiers of the 70s drinking one too many dark and stormies once we put this curse behind us. But I guess if I'm trying to channel anything at this point, that it's that despite what we've suffered, there's hope on the horizon. And look, I'm as war weary and battle scarred as everybody. I mean, sure, we might be getting the vaccines, but before you know it, we'll be hearing the news again that there's chunks of ice falling off Antarctica the size of Madagascar, right? And California's run dead belch dry of water as forest fires race across the Pacific Northwest up into Canada. It will be the same apocalyptic news, and that we never know if we're going to wake up one morning and see one of the horses of the apocalypse taking a dump on the front lawn. And so I hope that what we've been through has tempered us, that this crucible has made us aware of what it is we lost, which ultimately is each other. We lost community. We need leadership on the other side of this thing. We need a new Green Deal in order to revitalize this economy. We can't continue to feed this runaway train of nonstop consumption. Everybody's talking about, or the papers are talking about this, we're going to be in a shopaholic craze to rival the Kardashians with their father's Visa card at Mall of America once this is over. But we also need to temper it because, nothing's more expensive than Chinese slave labor, which has had us over a barrel for the longest time, the greatest the most stringent totalitarian country on the planet next to North Korea. And I think that we have to reevaluate our position in the world and how we go about living this life of entitlement that we expect. Ultimately, though, we missed each other. We missed community. We missed hugging family. And I think that's what I'm trying to reinforce in the special while stick handling my way through this minefield of polarities and information that's been coming down the pipe. Hope.
Okay, so when is it and how do we get to see this? Because, again, this is all part of the new world.
It's Sunday night, March the 21st at 8 p.m. You can buy tickets on my website, ronjames.ca, and I'll be doing anywhere from an hour to 90 minutes in my living room. So that's ronjames.ca. Tickets are $30. My show tickets on the road are $60, so it's a pretty good deal. And there's some best of stuff inserted with this brand new stuff. But I think you'll get an honest bang for your buck. And even though I'm not in a theater, I still have the same mandate. if the ushers aren't wiping the seats down after I'm finished, I haven't done my job.
I'm just curious, are you going to still have that same look that I saw on Instagram where your hair's all over the place and you just look like you just hit a body underneath your house?
That's the first time I've heard that analogy. But yeah. I mean, look, I haven't had a haircut since December 17th. I mean, there's no essential services. Jesus, I'm the point man for a Bon Jovi tribute band. Honest to God, I look like one of those, wildings that used to roam in from the woods in Romania after being raised by wolves. He shows up naked and filthy on a farmer's back porch chewing on a squirrel.
Goodness. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my friend, this is why you are the best, and this is why we need you during these times, because with so much heartbreak going on, we need at least that moment to laugh, and that's exactly what you provide. So
Rudy,
thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much. Look, man, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to do, I mean, this is a calling, and all my friends who answered this calling, it's really, it's not about the money, but the funny. And although you have to get paid and you have to meet your bills, it's making sense of the chaos we're all walking through in the language of laughs. And I'm 63. Look, I'm 20 years away from roaming the home in my Led Zeppelin onesie just to sing along the way from taking the stairway to heaven. So I might as well make it matter, bro.
Absolutely. Social media, where do we go to follow you so we know more about the special in case you're posting it and other things that you're going to be doing in 2021?
Well, you can check me out on Facebook, and I'm just going to go downstairs to my desk, and I've got all my addresses there. Gee whiz, I should have had them. Where the heck are they? Anyway, yeah, you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram and my website. All the information is there. If you go to my website, it's got the list of everything else. ronjames.ca.
Fantastic. Ron, big love to you, my friend. Glad you're
Thank
safe.
You, Rudy.
Glad you're giving us the laughs that we need, and glad that you're putting the special out for us, and looking forward to more. Hopefully we get a chance to talk soon, and hopefully the next time we get a chance to talk, it'll actually be in person because it'll be safe. But either way,
wouldn't that be nice? Well, we should talk when the book comes out, September 21st, and that's the next big thing. But have yourself a good summer, and thanks for having my back on this, man. There's a lot to talk about, and to make time to have a good chat like this means the world to me. Thank you so much.
Same here, my friend, and definitely September we'll talk. Talk to you soon. Be safe.
Bye-bye now. Thank you.
Go to the doctor. He said, look, you got a torn meniscus. Your injury is typical of aging athletes. I said, athlete? I got 7 goals in 10 years playing Halifax minor hockey, and 6 were on my own friggin' net.